Indra. Mandalam 1, Suktam 8. Rishi, Madhuchandas Vaishwamitra. Devata, Indra. Chandas, Gayatri. Mandalam 1, Suktam 8. Rik 1.
Indra sanasim rajim sajitvanam sadasaham parishishtamutaje bhara.
Verily, greatest Indra, granting blessings, do bring superior wealth, always enduring, for assistance. Water, water, everywhere, courtesy Indra. Water is an absolute necessity for all known forms of life with material bodies. In humans, water constitutes almost 70% of body mass. In the bodies of other life forms too, water content ranges between 50% and 80%. Life as we know it cannot exist without water, and it must be considered the greatest wealth a community can possess. No wonder that the Sanskritam language has a word in its vocabulary that denotes both wealth and water synonymously. It also stands to reason that Vedic hymns persistently dwell upon the notion of water as wealth in the physical realm, for it is so indeed. History, too, stands witness to this fact. All civilizations have flourished on the banks of water bodies like rivers and lakes and have perished when they go dry. Another reason, an economic one, that water is thought of as the greatest wealth is because of its relative meager availability. An estimated 97% of water available on Earth is saline and mostly unusable directly, and only 3% non-saline or fresh water as available in lakes, rivers, and subterranean water tables as groundwater, upon which most life forms survive. Indra is the agent that makes that 3% available to us and hence is our ally, our savior, our God, someone who can do naturally that we cannot. The parallel of water in the intellectual plane is grace. Understanding the role of Indra bestows upon us this abstract commodity in copious measures that eases our path to that state of permanence and freedom consciousness. Water, as we know it, is only one manifestation of this principle. Vedic thought considers outer space to be filled with another manifestation of this principle, ethereal waters, from which existence arises. Mandalam 1, Suktam 8, Rik 2.
नियेन मुष्टिहत्यजानि वृत्रारुणधामहै गोदासोऽन्यर्वताम्.
Whereby, by proximal fist slaying, protected by your coursers, let us stop collective enemies in continuance. The tactics and strategies of Indra. Tackling and neutralizing enemies involves employment of tactics and strategies. Tactics are those means that are employed for immediate demands, while strategies come handy in outwitting enemies that are distant in time, space, or both. One can recognize such adaptations employed by all systems in their struggles, be it in the intra-systemic domain or intersystemic realms. The mention of proximal fist fights and assault on horseback perhaps refers to these two approaches to vanquish adversaries. Within the bodies of living organisms, B cells and T cells attack bacterial pathogens and viruses, respectively, by proximal combat, while the immune system strategizes body protection with long-term measures employing equivalents of trenches, high ground, troop deployment, and the like. There is also a reliable communication network in place to coordinate activities. History is replete with descriptions of military campaigns that involve action at individual encounters, campaign strategies employed, and use of spy networks by renowned commanders. Indras, too, across their respective functional ranges, employ these approaches in their work. Their spy networks are their respective pair of steeds, representing light and sound vibrations. At the sentimental level, this verse is a gratitude-filled acknowledgement of this universal process, while at the scholastic, it is a recognition of the fractal composition and ordering of the universe. Mandalam 1, Suktam 8, Rik 3.
इन्द्रत्वोदासाभयम् वज्रम् घनादधीमहि जयेम संयुधि स्पृधाः.
Indra, verily protected by you, may we give violent lightning. May we together defeat enemies in battle. Ego, both a necessary adversary and an adversarial necessity. Lightning and thunder are used as metaphors here for the ability to totally demobilize an adversary to a state from which it'll be well nigh impossible to recover. The moment before a lightning strike is when a cloud is charged to its maximum potential. The following discharge is almost instantaneous that makes the cloud symbolically powerless. As the ruler of atmospheric processes, Indra is attributed with this accomplishment, where an imbalance is decisively negated without compromising the process itself. The invocation seeks the assistance of Indra for us to be in possession of such competence in our confrontation with adversaries at every level of existence, where a swift and decisive strike neutralizes the confronter from ever rising again. Our greatest adversary is our ego, which is paradoxically also a necessity to be responsible to our respective stations in existence. The challenge, then, is to both respect it and renounce it. Indra, through his conduct and management of his assigned tasks, teaches us how to handle this perplexity and accomplish our intended tasks as Indra always does with ease. Surely is he a role model for all mortals. Mandalam 1, Suktam 8, Rik 4.
भयम् सूरे विरस्ते भिरिन्द्रत्वजा युजा भयम् सासह्यामवृतन्यतः.
We, with weapon-wielding warriors, Indra, we with you together, may we well overcome all hostiles. Of lightning trees and meaningful or fanciful inferences. This verse seems to be a vivid description of a lightning strike with multiple terminating branches in terms of a terrestrial battlefield, with the aerial phenomenon having been rotated by 90 degrees. In a lightning discharge, it is deemed that the cumulative negative charge from the clouds flow down to one or more positively charged points on the terrestrial surface. It could also be argued logically that it is the accumulated positive charge that rushes up to the cloud along multiple paths to neutralize the negatively charged cloud, or that it is a two-way exchange, where the earth being larger than clouds, or Indra up in heaven being stronger, always triumphs. This visualization of complementary charge flow is the fundamental notion upon which the science of electronics rests, where a flow of charge can be described as a stream of electrons moving in one direction or a stream of positrons or holes moving in the opposite. This viewpoint lends itself to be interpreted as a battle between adversaries and the lightning strands as parts of missiles hurled by them. The preceding interpretation is at best a fanciful inference. The composer of the verse could well have had some other notion in mind in coming up with it, something that is even more profound or something very much more mundane than the interpretation attempted here. Perhaps all such interpretations address that one requirement of being able to contain and restrict the harmful influences of the ego, the hostiles of the verse, in our quest for consciousness without compromising its benign significance. Mandalam 1, Suktam 8, Rik 5.
महान् इन्द्रः परश्चनुमाहित्वमस्तु वज्रिणे द्यौर्न प्रथिनाशवाः.
Mighty Indra, powerful beyond time and heaven by extension, let greatness be to the wielder of the thunderbolt. The might and versatility of Indra as the manifestation of the Supreme. Consider the volume of the earth, which is 1.1 trillion cubic kilometers. The volume of the atmosphere enveloping the earth, that includes the bottommost troposphere to the outermost exosphere, is about 2.36 trillion cubic kilometers, which is more than double the volume of the earth. In contrast, the total volume of all humanity, considering the estimated population of 7.6 billion in the year 2023, is 0.47 cubic kilometers. This is the vastness of the earth's atmosphere and the infinite heaven beyond mentioned in the verse. Of course, vastness is a relative term. From the human perspective, this is indeed vast. But from the cosmic perspective, the earth will not even be a speck. Further, Indra is seen as the regulator of the universe as well, and as the manifest unmanifest. He is also beyond time. This notion makes our absolute insignificance starkly apparent. Yet, Indra, the regulator, is within ourselves too, as he is within every individual cell and every atom of our material bodies. That must be some greatness, some might and power, some versatility, and some universal scheme. Also, that is some vision by means of which people who composed these hymns fathomed all this. The hymns currently estimated by a few researchers using apparently reliable tools to be at least many thousands of years old. Accounting for this enormity of Indra's stature based on the numbers and relative projections above, the hymnal eulogy appears to be grossly inadequate. Mandalam 1, Suktam 8, Rik 6.
समोहे भाज आसतनरस्तोकस्य सनीतौ विप्रासो बाधियाजवाः
Either those mortals in life's confrontations become, or enlightened seers full of thoughts gain from creation. Perhaps both self-abnegation and self-centeredness are ordained. That deep awareness and understanding of the grand cosmic plan and its comprehensive administrative acumen represented by Indra is attained either by those who have confronted life's vagaries with fortitude, honesty, responsibility, and deliberation, or those blessed with the ability to profoundly contemplate and reflect logically upon consciousness, universality, and its implications, comprehend the significance and character of and requirement for the concept of Indra. Their actions and creations thereof are comparable to those of Indra himself, the intent, probity, and sense of self-abnegation being as ardent and similar. The verse perhaps also suggests that expressive compositions like those in the Rigveda can only be articulated by such mortals. It also draws a line between belief and awareness, the former that is born of fear, subjection, and dependence, and the latter that is a consequence of contentment, acceptance, and freedom. These two sets of diverse attributes represent the two poles of duality. If time were to decide which one of them is in ascendancy and which of them is waning in a cyclical manner within every mortal, then this truth, too, is an element of revelation bestowed upon mortal seers. Mandalam 1, Suktam 8, Rik 7.
यः कुक्षिस्तो मपादमः समुद्रयेव पिन्वते गुर्वीरावो न काकुदाः
Soma drink her belly that swells like sea expanse, like summit waters. Cloud nucleation and salivary action on food. A parallel is drawn here between the role of saliva in the digestion of food and the role of soma juice in catalyzing precipitation inside clouds. It is a peep into the innards of green technology or Vedic meteorology. In humans, the parotid gland is the largest of the three salivary glands, a duct from which carries the produced saliva based on signals from the tongue to be released into the oral cavity from the summit of the palate. Enzymes in the saliva start the digestion process of ingested food that extracts energy for use by the body for all its activities. The comparison of this process of salivation to the process of inducing rain implies that the soma juice and the hymnal vibrations reach the interior of a mass of water vapor that we call a cloud and play the role of a catalyst to start, hasten, and sustain the mechanism of precipitation. A process similar to the extraction of energy from the ingested food, the extraction inside the cloud being that of condensed water. The imagined size of Indra's capacious belly and his supposedly compulsive drinking habits have become casualties in the sincere endeavor of well-meaning humans to explain the minutiae of meteorology to their lay fellowmen and women. Freedom of speech, too, appears to have been a Vedic concept without the disquietude of being possibly booked under blasphemy laws. Personified gods being recognized as mind constructs, it was perhaps deemed that derogation of human creations subject to decency was within the realm of legitimacy. Mandalam 1, Suktam 8, Rik 8.
एवाह्यस्य सुहृता विरप्सी गोमतीमहि पक्वा शाखानदासुषे
Quite surely, the word of the truth of this great, faultless, abounding in herds, like ripe branch for the sacrificer. The conceptual Indra, an epitome of selflessness. The truth about the notion of Indra is explicitly mentioned here. He is the principle of tirelessness, faultlessness, and absolute benevolence from the viewpoint of maintaining equilibrium and order as envisaged and laid down by the fundamental and immutable laws of nature. Sanatana Dharma, that are all-encompassing and equally well applicable to the realms of matter and thought. From the perspective of meteorology and ensuring availability of the true wealth of all life, water and grace, he regulates the atmosphere and our minds, herds collectives of truths, and causes them to precipitate rain and blessings by himself, and also when catalyzed by appropriate human offerings when made within the ambit of the prescribed laws of nature, dharma. The reference to Indra's personified self and the trappings that go with this imaginative and poetic narration are merely ornamental accoutrements. The use of a wide variety of processes of the material world repeatedly to explain intellectual and mystical concepts points to the notion of renunciation being applicable to the abnegation of ego alone and not the renunciation of responsibilities, unless that happens as a harmless and preferred repercussion. On the basis of this context, a sacrifice can be defined to be the fulfillment of responsibilities without self-pride and without any expectations. Mandalam 1, Suktam 8, Rik 9.
Eva te vibhutaya bhutaya indramavate satyashchit santi dasushe.
Thus, surely your assistances, Indra, immediately become mindfully expansive for a sacrificer like me. Truth, a surreptitious salvo at an assertive ego. It is reiteration at play again, emphasizing what was said in the earlier verse about the true nature and disposition of Indra and his role in the narrative of existence. For a poet, reiteration cannot be justifiably realized by using the same set of expressions, for that will be a blot upon the pursuit of eloquent, aesthetically loquacious, yet meaningful and metaphor-laden versification, and an unpardonable contempt of all that is considered beautiful and worthy of joyous acclamation. One also can sense a surreptitious salvo aimed at an assertive ego, as the verse emphasizes that our material acquisitions and intellectual ability are entirely due to the assistances of Indra, and what he provides is disproportionately greater than what we deserve or may ever be capable of offering to him in return. It stresses upon the truth that humility is not a contrived construct for use as a tool to achieve a goal. It is rather an experience that comes from understanding our insignificance in the backdrop of the immensity of the universe, the capabilities and versatility of its administrator, Indra, and the adjectiveless supreme creator that has caused all of this to happen. The greater the knowledge one has about the material and psychological processes of the mundane world, there is this corresponding and proportional increase in our sense of insignificance, of wonderment, of true humbleness. Mandalam 1, Suktam 8, Rik 10.
Evahyasya kamyastoma bhukthancha samsya Indraya soma vitaye.
Thus, surely, loudly read to Indra of this desirable hymn for drinking Soma libation. Unparalleled ingenuity and admirable intent of seer composers. It is one final reiterative exercise at the conclusion of the Suktam. One cannot fault the composer for taking recourse to it. Rigvedic verses are considered experienced truths of seers, who then translate the experiential into the expressive. An experience is profound and absolute, while an expression always struggles with the limitations of a language, the state of mind, and personal propensities in describing it with all its nuances. It is the seer's attempts to translate the experience as closely as possible, using a limited assortment of words, which always falls short of its target. Nevertheless, the attempt is surely well intentioned. There can, however, be another viewpoint to this as well. Just as one swallow does not make a summer, and one lightning strike with an accompanying roar of thunder does not make a monsoon, or not even an isolated storm, one mention of the truth is not potent enough to make any mortal realize humility, nor reduce the deleterious effects of the ego. Repeated hearing of the truth is essential to accomplish this. Perhaps the seers had this inherently obdurate predilection of mortal minds in focus while composing their revelations. Rather than being fatigued, we should be grateful to the composers for their indulgence in repetitive description of a phenomenon, in varying linguistic weaves, imaginative flourishes, their ability to integrate its effects across multiple experiential planes, and all this accomplished within the ambit of strict metrical standards.